Welcome to the Digital Manufacturing Dialogue series by ET Manufacturing. And digital manufacturing, whenever we talk, every conferences we go, every seminar we visit, every talk shows we attend, everyone's talking about how digitization and these digital technologies are impacting the manufacturing industries across the world. However, we still need to assess where India stands in this digital journey. Are we adopting it in its full potential? Are we having enough support from the government? How and why these digital technologies should be adopted at the MSME levels as well? And to discuss this, we have with us Mr. Vijay Balakrishnan, who is the Chief Digital Officer at Godrej Enterprise Group, to discuss about how digitization at Godrej has happened, India's position, and his suggestions to the MSME about how to go about digitization. Welcome, Mr. Vijay.
Thank you, Nishant. Thank you so much.
Right. So, to start with, Mr. Vijay, I would like to know what's the current situation of India's digitization in the global map. Do you think that we are going ahead with the adoption of digital technologies at par with the global companies? And what kind of strength and area of improvement do you still see in Indian soft laws?
Got it. So, thank you once again for having me over. After having spent more than 2 decades in the manufacturing sector, I'm a purebred manufacturing sector guy. So, I'm going to answer your question wearing the manufacturing sector's lens.
Right.
So, one, manufacturing is very critical to our GDP. It still contributes 17%, but it needs to be much more than that. We are all conscious of it, and definitely policies like Make in India is making a huge difference in terms of growing that number as we go towards 2030 target.
Right.
Digital adoption, as is in any sector or any function within each sector, digital adoption is inevitable, and definitely government initiatives, definitely like India AI mission and Viksit Bharat, has brought out the necessary, I want to say, sensitization across. You talked about MSMEs, but large corporates and MSMEs, it has definitely brought out a supporting infrastructure and a very much needed cultural sensitization to say that you don't do this now, we are already late and you're going to be extremely delayed, right? So
Right.
I think that's definitely there. But if you look at it, despite all of these, the I think our maturity is around 2.5. If I have to reduce it to a number on a scale, I think that basically shows that we need to do much more. And then there is a difference between like a supporting infrastructure versus something that comes with us through the journey. I think the next big step we are all expecting from our government definitely would be explaining to large number of big and small companies, MSMEs across the country on, while that is a vision for the country, how can you be part of it? What are the incremental changes, or in terms of the path that you need to walk from one year to another for you to be contributing to that big dream of us, right? But for a second, if you project it to Godrej Enterprises mission, I'm not here to say that, oh, we are all superlative in terms of our maturity as well. I would rate us again somewhere around 1.5 to 2 in terms of our maturity. But we have taken that, and it's a large corporate. So the transformation won't happen overnight, but we have definitely signed up to a 1,200 crore investment for our transformation over the next 3 years. A big portion of that is going to come from transformation of our factories. We are also in the process of setting up our factories, outside of Mumbai. There again at Khalapur, we are having a very digital first mindset in terms of looking at every walk of our factories and so on. So manufacturing, big focus, digitization contribution to manufacturing, thereby impacting manufacturing's contribution to our country's GDP, all critical. And we at GEG have also kind of aligned with that vision and thought process.
So there are a lot of takeaways for me in this answer, Vijay. You spoke about government intervention, you spoke about MSME's role, and you also spoke about how Godrej is planning to digitize their, factories and with a huge investment of about 1,200 crore. So, talking about Godrej only, so you must be having some machines and system that are like legacy machines, we can say. Some may be in automated, and I'm sure there are many technologies and machines you must be having. Those are highly modern, equipped with all these, smart factory technologies. So, if you have to digitize your entire factory, uh, how do you integrate these legacy machines with the modern technologies, and how do you go about digitizing their entire shop floor?
Absolutely, Nishant. So, brilliant question, because this is the difference between a smart manufacturing program converting to value and not for an organization. Because, and this is going to be true irrespective of which point in time, because we are not going to get, if you walk into a factory, different machines age at different
Yeah,
pace. Now, naturally, I'm going to replace some of them with new tech. Some of them will be a little older, but then again, when they go for refresh, these are already a little bit older. So that applies to us as well. When you come to Godrej Enterprises, you will see in our factories, we have some machines that are completely new that take care of themselves.
of
But
course. Yeah.
the the trick is not one asset, right? So the trick is to have those assets connected and in a very smart way, so that the end to end of the factory and the throughput and the quality, the yield of the factory goes up, and overall utilization of our assets also go up. So what we have done as part of the investment that I talked about in terms of transformation, we have started to build our own MES platform, which
Okay.
would connect to different machines, whether they are already fully loaded with tech or otherwise. But basic utilization data, for example, spindle runtime in our CNC
CNC
machine,
machines.
so on.
Yeah.
These are all very obvious targets that where we are connecting the data from our machines to our IoT hub on the cloud, and our MES platform captures, depicts the operational data around utilization, quality, utility management, track and trace, genealogy of our components to all the way to finished goods and so on. But on top of that, we are doing two more. As we speak, we have definitely, once you collect all this rich data across machines for a factory, you want to analyze them, apply AI, and then come
Yeah.
up with predictive maintenance on the asset, come up with specific, predicting not just the failure of assets, but also when to maintain, when to do scheduled maintenance as well, instead of scheduled more around the condition-based maintenance. But on top of that, these are again decisions that would be driven, when you have suddenly so much data, so much insights coming, it might become overwhelming for our own teams to be able to decide, how do I prioritize, which one to act on, what is the action here. So we are also deploying agents that would monitor these insights. So agent, insight, operational MES platform where the end-to-end running of the factory comes through. Uh, I wouldn't call it a digital twin 100%, but we are almost there. And uh, the underlying infrastructure to be able to capture specific data from these machines, whether they are old, medium, new, it doesn't matter, wherever they were from the time scale, we are able to bring it all together in our Factory 360 platform. So we call it Factory 360 because, again, we have 30 plus factories catering to different kinds of products, dealing with different kinds
Right.
of processes. Very difficult for any single off-the-shelf tool to handle such complexity and diversity in technologies and machines and processes, etc. So we have started building our own platform.
So you spoke about deploying AI agents to carry out certain activities at your shop floor. And I have often seen that many people get confused or, get mistaken between the AI in manufacturing and hyper automation. Right. So, but here it looks like you have actually deployed AI agents to give you certain preventive and predictive, suggestions, right?
Correct.
I would like to know what kind of difference it has brought to your overall efficiency and productivity. If you can throw any number, that is also fine. But overall, I would like to know what kind of difference these AI agents have got to the shop floor.
Yeah, so uh, we have already started seeing some numbers, but again, these are evolving numbers. I'm sure.
Right, right. It must be initial phase.
Absolutely. So, not necessarily initial, but also in terms of end-to-end connectivity, we have just connected two of our factories end-to-end. Now, that is where, like I told you before, where the difference comes from. We are seeing at least 10 to 15% of reduction in the conversion cost, 3 to 5% impact in yield, thereby reducing raw material cost and so on. So I can definitely add more numbers, but that is the number play. But more importantly, you got it right. So people get confused between AI and industrial automation. Industrial automation has been happening for ages. I'll give you an
Right.
example where both of these have come together in one of our factories. In our security solutions divisions, we have an industrial automation, which is an automated welding machine, which of course, right? So we have procured years back. The machine comes up with a safety model that prevents it from operating when it detects a human in the vicinity. The problem was the model wasn't working because anywhere, even outside the geofence, it detects a human or somebody carrying something way behind, it was able to capture the leg of the person, the machine stops. So operationally, the machine was not useful at all because it kept stopping. So here is industrial automation, fully functional, but for a critical reason like safety, not operating in its highest efficiency. So what we have done, we have created an AI model that will not just geofence, detect human, but also it's not just a depth detection, but it is also in terms of is it the operator, is it otherwise. So and we have kind of positioned it with the 120-degree gap, three such cameras that eventually tell the machine when to actually stop. Right. So it says
Right.
safety, but again, we had some issues with the natural software that came with the machine. So we have, on top of it, we have created another control that is ensuring safety of our employees, but at the same time making sure operationally it is running at 100% efficiency.
So, Mr. Vijay, I understand Godrej being a large enterprise, it might be relatively easier for you to deploy all these technologies because you have means, method, and money and everything, right? But when it comes to MSMEs who are, not having that kind of money or, even the vision for that kind of activities. So how should they go about digitizing their factories? What kind of suggestions you can give step-by-step process? Because it's not like you have to go and deploy the full automation or AI in manufacturing. It has to be a step-by-step process, right? So what kind, would you like to throw some light on this?
Yeah. So first of all, we have a very motivating target to impact GDP by $1 trillion by 2030, right? So, and let me little bit go further and say without MSME transformation happening,
It's not
goal
possible.
will become that much tough to achieve. Okay, so we cannot kind of overlook the MSME play. Second,
Right.
the MSMEs are also a critical cog in our supply chain. So our transformation and organizations like Godrej and our ability to impact that vision will also be curtailed by upstream, downstream MSME partners not joined into the bandwagon. So naturally, I think the sensitization has happened to the MSMEs, but also to organizations like us who partner with these MSMEs on a regular basis.
Right.
So I think, like I said earlier, right? So the while the vision is great, we have the wherewithal, the resources, the knowledge, training people that is needed to convert that vision, break it into a roadmap. I think that is where we need to support the MSMEs. It could come from, and of course, we are all part of, we all feel accountable, responsible to be also doing that. But naturally, government I think, indulgence around, for example, the Bharat initiative itself is acting like a good platform on which this sharing and that ecosystem can come to play that would guide the MSMEs. Second thing is, in today's world where with technologies like cloud, we know how data center has boomed in our country. So without risking data, the MSMEs can also have a safe play with paper use in terms of consuming technology. So, and we are also having growing, evolving in our maturity around cybersecurity, data privacy. Our DPDPA is almost on the verge of getting released. So, I think this is a safe bet where they could start looking at, okay, I'm going to improve my operational efficiency by 1% this year. But what would drive that 1% could be even 5%, 10%. But I'm saying such smaller near-term targets will kind of create that avalanche effect that would kind of get them going in the larger scheme of things.
Right. So, in between, you spoke about government's role also, and we know that you also said about Make in India, but there are programs like Digital India, Samarth Udyog. How much these schemes and programs has been helpful in encouraging digital, technology adoptions? Or do you have any other suggestions what government should do to encourage MSMEs to, or maybe speed up their adoption to the technology?
Uh, yeah, so I read a recent article. I'm going to quote, I don't remember from where, but it actually said more around science without a foresight is like having a destination or launching yourself into an exploratory path without a map. And kind of that's where MSMEs typically, but even some large organization, parts of organizations like us also get caught. We want, for example, there is a lot of buzz around a technology like Gen AI. We want to jump onto the bandwagon, but then the real question to ask is why is there a need? But how do we do it incrementally? I think that is where we need some examples, some sharing. I think we need to start looking at this MSME plus large organizational ecosystem into one platform, a collaborative ecosystem. We big automobile companies in Europe started doing this in terms of blockchain. There were, I think, if I remember, there were a couple of blockchain-based supply chain sharing ecosystems or data sharing ecosystems that were developed, where participating, it was developed by one of the big automobile companies. There were also MSMEs and suppliers ecosystem who were all part of the blockchain ecosystem that served and gave, first of all, gave the transparency needed, but at the same time, they were all getting the know-how required in terms of technology trends and what kind of products to make, what to stock, how do we bring the vision, and so on. So number one, some more guidance around the incremental steps and near-term goals for smaller organizations from the government will be hugely incrementally helpful. Second, we should start looking at this as a mutually supporting ecosystem. And like I said before, having a target leaving part of the ecosystem out is never going to be reached. So we need to go and be a little more inclusive in reaching this vision and mission. And thirdly, like I said before, there's a lot of responsibility, accountability on organizations and large Indian corporates like us. It's part of our mission to make sure that we are also doing the needful to this evolution of MSMEs.
One aspect about the skill development, because whenever there is a transformation, there is always need to transform the man force as well, employees, reskilling, de-skilling, and skilling, and all those things. How did you go about it in at your organization, and what are your suggestions in terms of getting a skilled manpower for the digitization world?
I recently I read a study that actually said 63% of our workforce will require digital reskilling by
Okay.
2030. That is based on the current trend. We need to beat that trend. and make sure that training happens much earlier. I have two answers for you. One, within Godrej, naturally, with people like us coming into the organization, there is a lot of focus around training of employees. For example, this year we have planned 6 lakh hours of training on AI alone
Oh,
across our employee base. Okay,
great.
so and when I say AI, I'm talking about basics to hands-on AI to AI awareness needed to utilize solutions to also strategic thinking with AI as a critical pillar to a business. So we are covering all the bases, and both AI, Gen AI, as the new evolution has taught us, we are training our workforce in a big way this year. And it has already started. Happy to say we are probably already about 8-10% into this target as we began this fiscal year. And by March, we will complete this target. Um, but that is us. And like I told you before, we strongly believe in carrying our ecosystem forward along with us. So we kind of, I wouldn't say just MSMEs, but the larger supplier ecosystem around Godrej, customer ecosystem that are with us. We are doing a lot of initiatives. Beyond sourcing is a very critical initiative where we are focusing on two things. One, making sure we translate our learning around digital to the supplier ecosystem, but also we truly believe that sustainability and is the future. If we are not sustainable, we are not existing very soon. It
Right.
will be a very um, critical imperative, operational imperative to every manufacturing organization.
Right.
Relies a
So you,
lot on these MSMEs also coming up. So we are doing
right.
a lot of training, sensitization around sustainability, sustainable practices in manufacturing, as well as the larger how do they think about their supply and suppliers ecosystem, and the sustainability end to end for us is very critical. So we are our beyond sourcing initiative is a great example where we enable our MSME partners with that.
So you spoke about sustainability, and these days every corporate level and government and everyone's talking about achieving the sustainability goal. How these technologies can help companies achieve their sustainability and ESG goals according to you?
So I will break it into two parts. Okay. So there is technology for sustainability, and there's also sustainability for technology. Okay. So technology for sustainability starts with reporting. Like I said, if you are, Europe is the one leading the direction here, but if all the countries are catching up, and very soon, sustainable end-to-end sustainability and carbon footprint is going to be critical aspect to do business anywhere in the world. And we are the focus is around green tech companies and platforms that are coming up, which will be focusing around not just sustainability reporting, but also carbon reporting, carbon trading. Potentially, can I buy some credits and use it elsewhere? Or if I overdo in one of my transactions, can I get some credit, but eventually bring it back into the ecosystem? It's going to be a huge strategic aspect of what organizations would need, and that's a big focus from a technology standpoint. But on top of that, like I said before, our Factory 360 platform in our 30 plus factories across the country, it monitors utility management, the differential power that we consume from electricity versus solar versus other renewable sources. We are trying to see how do we optimize, how do I make sure my reliance, or how can I use more renewable from year to year. So we are almost as if that is an operational um, KPI. We are monitoring utility KPIs, utilization KPIs as well. Most of our factories are, focusing on. If we have our carbon target as usual, that is the well-known number. But then to enable that, technology solutions like this are adding pieces of the puzzle to put together. But like I said before, there is this other thing around sustainability for technology, which is more around the carbon footprint of technology in itself. I can go super advanced in creating a much heavy, complex AI model, but there is a carbon footprint associated with running that model also. And
Right.
and usually the running of the model is one time, and then you use that multiple times. So in if you look at it over a 3-year period, 5-year period, then the carbon impact comes down. But then we are conscious of that to make sure that we move the data as needed, we run processing as required, to drive those business goals and so on. So that, and we are also focusing on monitoring and analyzing number of physical prints that happen across our offices and factories. We are trying to, and even an email attachment going to 15 people versus a link to a file going to the same 15 people, there is a difference in terms of how much does it means, or in terms of load to the data center, eventual carbon footprint. So this is sustainability for technology. That is also something we are consciously tracking and focusing on.
Yeah, and it's need to be because every small prompt in AI is actually polluting somewhere else, maybe.
Absolutely.
Just last question, or maybe a couple of questions. I was talking to one professor from IIT Bombay, Professor Ashim Tiwari, and he was saying that, digitization is not the future. It's now, it's today, and it's non-negotiable. And then he was saying that, the company who do not embrace this may perish in future. So he was suggesting that, small companies, especially, or any large companies, should start at least with the low cost automation, get to the level of hyper automation, then go for AI and all those things. How much do you agree, and what are your suggestions to this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I think it's definitely, uh, it's okay. So I totally agree with the fact that digitization, in fact, if you are beginning to digitize today, you're a little bit late. So digitization is not present. It was actually the past.
Right.
Second, I also want to introduce the fact that it is not as, I would say, costly to digitize something today. It need not be enterprise wide. I could digitize a portion of my process that I know is a bottleneck, is going to impact me greatly. I could
Yeah.
prioritize and come up with specific sections, almost like a surgical strike on aspects that bring me the maximum bang for the buck, and focus on digitizing only those aspects. That is the big enabler. So it is, digitization is the past, surgical digitization is the present. I think that is the world we are living in. And we can do it in a very economical way versus the kind of value these, I think, focused implementations will bring on board. It's a no-brainer for us to implement, test it. And for various reasons, let's say it fails. It wouldn't, but let's say even AI models have a 60% probability of success. It's how you define success, how you, the rigor you put to implement it. But let's say even if it fails, I think there's a learning associated with that failure that would bring you much more bang for the buck the next time you approach such surgical digitization project. So I totally agree, but I want to say more that you need to focus on that focused digitization at this point.
I think that was really great insight because, many people still believe that going digital is a very expensive, but what you said is that you can digitize yourself in a very economical way with just focusing on the aspect that actually needs to be digitized. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Vijay. It was great talking to you. I learned so much about how digitization is actually happening across the industries and actually at the Godrej level. And I wish you best with your plan for the digitization. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Nishan. Thanks for your time as well and having me over.